Then, that's it. It's over. Ron, Alana, I failed. Everyone. Everything.
What has gotten into you, man? Alana is alive! Ran is alive! You're alive! And where there is life, there's always hope!
But we're outgunned.
So what? We don't even use guns!
The Eye is invulnerable.
All the better to prove we are true heroes!
Alana is their captive.
For now... This isn't the end. It's an opportunity. Most men wait their entire lives in vain for a moment like this. A chance to matter. A call to adventure. Adam, answer that call!
You sound like a man with a plan.
Yes, I'm well aware that perhaps some of you might have thought that video was a little corny, and if I'm lucky, maybe out of the 3 people that might have started watching this video, perhaps 1 is still here. But look, as corny as you may think it is, the lesson of you should try to take advantage of the hard times to make yourself better is not a bad message. Corny? Maybe. Still good message. Regardless of that fact, I still think there are a couple other lessons we can pull out of this video. And yes, if you've seen our last video, me and Uku have been on kind of a DC nostalgia trip for some reason. Uku, do you remember how we got ourselves into this? Oh yeah, that's right. You wanted to show us all Triplicate Girl. Now I remember. Well, anyways, regardless of what the reason, I think on top of that one really obvious message that clip was trying to portray, there are a couple of other lessons that we can pull from this clip, but you gotta dig a little deeper to get them. So, I'm gonna start out with making a reference to an older video. I don't know if anybody's seen it, probably not, because nobody watches me, but a little while ago, or a lot of while ago, I made a video called Practice What You Preach. The idea behind this video is this philosophical idea saying that when you are in a tough situation or you have a problem, you shouldn't be asking yourself, how do I fix this, or what should I do? But rather you should be asking yourself, if somebody else was in this situation, or if somebody else had this problem, what advice would I give them? And if you pay attention to yourself, you might realize that for whatever reason, we have a tendency to give better advice when we're giving it to someone else as opposed to ourselves. I made a whole video on it. I'll leave it in the description down below. But the point being is that we can actually pull this from this video. Now, spoiler alerts if you care, but in the actual entirety of the episode that this clip comes from, it starts out with Aquaman being very, very depressed, which specifically for this version of Aquaman is really, really weird. Obviously, there have been several versions of Aquaman with different personality types, but in Batman Brave and the Bold, Aquaman is this super, super charismatic, happy, go-getting superhero. I mean, he is like every goody two-shoe superhero cliche rolled up into one and magnified. That's part of the reason I really love him. But the point I'm trying to get here is, yeah, it's kind of weird when other superheroes lose their will to be heroes, but for this version of Aquaman, it's really, really, really weird. And throughout the entire episode, he kind of just spends it mulling over, what's the point of everything? Why should I be a hero? Is there any point in trying to do good in the world? And we spend a very large amount of time, him essentially just going through this existential crisis. But then we get to the point in this clip where he sees somebody else going through this very similar crisis of, what's the point? Why should I even try to do any good in this world? And it's only at that point It's only at the point where he sees somebody else in that same problem that he actually comes up with a good answer. He actually finds a point. He actually knows what to say to encourage him. Now, realistically, not a whole lot has changed in Aquaman. He's more or less the same person he was in the last episode we saw him. So it's not like he got like a large amount of information put into him or gone through some sort of philosophical epiphany or anything. He had the answer. He knew exactly what the answer was to his problem this entire time. But it wasn't until he saw somebody else in a similar situation that he actually thinks of the answer. So this is one of the reasons I often tell people that if you're having a problem, you're having a situation, you're having a hard time, you shouldn't try to ask yourself, how do I fix this? You should try to ask yourself, if somebody else had this problem, why or what would I tell them to do? What advice would I give them? And realistically, a lot of the time, you'll probably end up coming with better advice than you would have if you just asked yourself the same question. Admittedly, the next lesson is very, very, very corny. But, like the other immediate lesson, still very, very good. The lesson being, I think, that you can learn and benefit quite a bit from helping somebody else. I know. It's very, very corny. But again, still very, very true. Because think about it, in this video, right, in this little clip, Aquaman discovers the answer he had been seeking for the entirety of the episode, which the episode, like most other things, is like 22 minutes, but in perspective of the character, it's probably a couple hours. So for a pretty decently long time of thinking and pondering and just being depressed and miserable, he isn't really able to figure out the answer he was looking for. But at this point, when he actually wants to help somebody else out of their rut, when he wants to get somebody else's mojo back, that's when he fixes himself. That's when he gets the answer he was looking for, when he helps somebody else. And obviously, it's not going to more often than not happen like this in real life. Chances are it's not going to be this obvious or this kind of epiphany moment every single time you help any person. But the point I'm trying to get to is that, first of all, you can learn and benefit a lot from it. And secondly, you don't necessarily have to be this perfect person to help somebody else. Because ultimately, you're never going to get to a state of perfection. You're never going to get to a state of complete, just nothing wrong with you. Unless you somehow become God, which I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's impossible. Now, don't misunderstand me, because I know people are going to think this. I am not saying that you should go out of your way to help people if you are at your limit. Okay, if you are physically incapable of helping somebody else in a healthy manner, right? Like for instance, if somebody else needs you to take over a project and you already got like 20 other projects you're dealing with, that is not what I mean, okay? That you should not be burning yourself out to help somebody else, because ultimately at that point, you're not only hurting yourself, but you're also probably not going to be able to help the people you can help as well as you could if you were in optimal condition. But what I am saying is that if you believe that you can't help somebody, like maybe you think that you shouldn't give advice because you don't think you're wise enough, or you think that you can't help somebody with certain techniques simply because you're not quite experienced enough, then you shouldn't think like that. Now that I say it out loud, no, I'm not saying you should be cocky either, but you should be willing to help people even if you don't think you're qualified, because more often than not, you're more capable than what you think. Alright guys, what's that, Uku? Wait, are you serious? The next episode's already out for the Marvel What If series? Alright guys, we're gonna have to end this right here and now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have other pieces of advice or clips that you think I should check out, please leave it in the comment section below. Otherwise, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell button. I post every other week. And until next time, hear nothing and listen to all. Bye guys.